Hi, I'm Randy Hodgins, Vice President for External Affairs at the University of Washington.
And I'm Margaret Shepard, Director of State Relations.
These are troubling times for the economy of the state of Washington, but it's also a defining moment as our state legislature grapples with some very difficult budget challenges. We're bringing you this program to share some facts about higher education and the impact that it has today and will have on future generations of Washingtonians.
We've titled our presentation Our Shared Future because we know that the future of the University of Washington and the future of Washington State are inextricably linked. We're a proudly public institution. We're here for its citizens and the economy.
It's no secret that we're living through very unprecedented economic times, perhaps the worst since the Great Depression of the 1930s. And certainly the University of Washington has not been immune from the budgetary challenges faced by the state. But I think it's important to note that what's happening in financing of higher education, and particularly at the University of Washington, is part of a historic trend. This chart shows over the last 20 years that state funding and tuition funding have changed rather dramatically in terms of defining who pays for higher education. The gold line in the middle of the chart represents the amount of funding provided by the state or the public per student at the University of Washington. And you can see that it's dropped rather precipitously since 1990. Not surprisingly, the purple line at the bottom of the chart shows tuition dollars per student over the same period of time. And they've been rising at the same rate that the public funding has been declining. At the very top of the chart shows the amount of funding it costs to provide education at the UW. That hasn't really changed much over time. It's gone down and it's gone up, but since 1990 in inflation-adjusted dollars, it's hovered around $16,000 per student. So the real reason that tuition is going up so precipitously at the university is not because the cost of education has gone up, but because state dollars have been declining so rapidly. Certainly, the University of Washington has had to make some very difficult budget decisions over the past biennium. Almost 1,000 positions were eliminated here on campus. Administration was cut more deeply than academics, but our core academic instruction was not completely protected. We've had to eliminate courses, teaching assistants, and a number of sections in large lecture classes. This may result in it taking longer for students to graduate. In addition, financial aid has not been able to keep pace with the rising cost of tuition for every student here on campus.
Budget times are tough, but the University of Washington is remaining steadfast in its commitment to educating the citizens of Washington State and growing the economy of Washington State. There's been a lot of conversation as to whether or not a higher education matters, and we know that college-educated citizens get jobs. The unemployment rate for college-educated citizens is currently half that of what it is for those without a college degree. We also know that $1 in education is the best investment that the state can make. It means that kids stay out of jail. It means that they don't rely on social services. They vote, they give back to their communities, and they create jobs as the employers of small businesses around the state. We also know that education doesn't just matter for an individual, but it's also key to our state's future. Washington has one of the highest reliance on college-educated citizens for the jobs that it grows here. But we also know that Washington State has one of the lowest participation rates in four-year higher education of any other state in the nation, and that's concerning. We know that education matters. It's one of the ways that we can make sure that we permanently lift people out of poverty and into the middle class. But in addition to education mattering, the University of Washington is also a unique asset for the state. University of Washington graduates are our workforce and our employers. The University of Washington educates almost 100,000 people a year. 45,000 of those come to University of Washington campuses from this state and all over the world. We do the bulk of bachelor degree education, graduate and professional education in the state. And in addition to the 45,000 people we have bricks and mortar here on campus, the University of Washington also educates another 45,000 people. That's a second University of Washington in its educational extension and outreach program. 75% of University of Washington alumni also stay in Washington. That means when we get them here and we educate them here, they stay, they get jobs, they raise families, and they contribute back to their communities. In addition to staying, living, and working in Washington State, University of Washington students, staff, faculty, and alumni give back to their communities. Almost a third of the charity care is provided by University of Washington Medicine. $55 million is donated to local charities by faculty, students, and staff every year. And our students give almost 350,000 hours of community service back to this state. It's not just about us here at the University of Washington. It's about what we provide for the state and what we provide for the economy. The University of Washington is a $3.3 billion enterprise, and every year the state provides about $300 million worth of support to the university. A lot of people ask us, with state support being such a small percentage of the university's overall budget, is it really that essential to the health and vitality of the University of Washington? And the answer, of course, is unequivocally yes. As you can see in the chart here, state funds provide the core foundation on which all of the other revenue sources and activities of the University of Washington are leveraged. That includes our $1.2 billion research enterprise, our $600 million medical enterprise, and over $100 million of private philanthropy and gifts. That's money coming into the Washington state economy that wouldn't be here if we didn't have the state funds to provide core academic support for the University of Washington.
You know, with numbers like this, it's no surprise that the University of Washington has a major impact on the state's economy. This past year, the University of Washington retained the firm of Tripp Umbach, a national research company that specializes in measuring the economic impact of research universities like the University of Washington. The numbers that Tripp Umbach found were staggering. The University of Washington in 1 year has a $9.1 billion impact on the state economy. That's one of the largest dollar impacts that they found of all the universities they've studied. About half of that impact is related to the University of Washington's medical operations. Harborview Hospital, the University of Washington Medical Center, and our physicians' clinics. Another third of the impact is directly related to the University of Washington's research mission. The University of Washington since 1974 has been the #1 recipient of public research dollars in the United States. That's research money brought in from the federal government or private foundations and spent right here in the state of Washington. The rest of our impact comes from the University of Washington's regular business operations. The University of Washington is also a major generator of jobs. Almost 70,000 jobs, direct jobs and indirect jobs, are related directly to the University of Washington's presence in the state of Washington. That would make us, frankly, the third largest employer in the state of Washington, behind such well-known companies as Boeing and Microsoft. And also, the University of Washington is probably the state's best investment. For every state dollar invested in the University of Washington, based on that economic impact study, about $22.50 is returned back to the state economy. When Tripp Umbach studied other universities such as UCLA or the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, which are also major drivers of their state's economy, the numbers they found were more in the $1 to $15 or $16 range. So the University of Washington truly is a strong economic power for the state.
Heading into this next legislative session, a lot of people have asked us, what is the university trying to accomplish? And it's really very simple. The first is that we want to ask the state to protect state investment in public higher education. Like you saw earlier, state funds provide the foundation for all educational funding at the University of Washington, and they are the foundation that allows us to leverage other investment in the Washington state economy. Secondly, we're asking the legislature to allow the university greater capacity to manage its revenues and its operations. We know these will be difficult times, and we know budgets will be tough. The more tools the university has to manage its way through these difficult times, the stronger we'll come after the end of this recession.
It's also important that in addition to asking the legislature for things, that the University of Washington make a strong commitment to doing business differently. We need to be accountable to the state and to the taxpayers through new and stronger performance measures. We also need to make sure that we're doing things at the University of Washington as efficiently, as effectively as possible. That means being creative and innovative about finding new ways not only to deliver educational services, but to operate our own internal business operations. The University of Washington also, and perhaps most importantly, remains firmly committed to its public mission. Public service for the state of Washington, educating Washington residents. That's the core foundation upon which the University of Washington was founded almost 150 years ago.
A lot of people also ask Randy and I how they can help the University of Washington during these difficult times. And the answer is really very simple. You can help by educating others about the value that the University of Washington provides to you and to your community. We all have a stake in the University of Washington. Our kids are worth it, and the economy depends on it.
Working together, we know we can secure the future for our children, the university, and the state of Washington.
If you'd like to learn more about what's going on at the University of Washington or just get up-to-date information about what's happening this legislative session, please visit us at www.uw.edu/state relations.
We appreciate your support and thanks so much for watching.